can social media spiritually form you? Because everything's forming you, and like, well, everything, so it can, social media can form you, but can it spiritually form you well? Or are you looking for the light among the mess that potentially might give you, you know, like in your scroll, you've like got one contemplative thought that you're like, oh yay, I now feel better about the fact that I've scrolled.
I saw a Bible verse on the
Yeah.
background of mountains, and
You,
now suddenly I'm
totally.
edified.
You know what I mean? So I guess for me, I was like,
challenged.
like, can it spiritually form me?
I think it can, or maybe a healthier way to think about that is that God can use it to form us.
That's true.
If we participate in it well. But if we zoom back out, that I think Jesus models that helpful cycle of disengagement and re-engagement, disengagement and re-engagement.
Hi, I'm Annette, and welcome to LICC's Unscripted, where we have honest conversations about faith, culture, and everything else in between. Take it away, Darby.
Cool. So today we're going to be talking about social media and detoxing and all of that. So I'm currently on a social media detox. So that's kind of my story, ATM.
Okay.
Tim?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Tim, and I recently reinstalled Instagram on my phone, and I hate myself for it.
Okay, you guys already know. My name is Annette, and listen, you're hearing it first here. Detoxing is out. Okay, I'm done with detoxing. Is done. Detox the detox. This is how I feel about this.
Wow.
Immediately off the back, before we've even gotten into the juicy topic.
That's fair enough. I personally have started detoxing. So it started with TikTok. She deleted that, which was a surprise to everyone. I think I was known as the TikTok girl in the office.
You were
Everyone
the
was like,
TikTok girl in the
girls,
office.
like give me the update, and I was like,
I would
let me tell you about the
send
trends.
you memes, and
I
you were
would
like, no
I would
longer.
have to send links to TikToks to my colleagues because they didn't have TikTok. But I got rid of that first. I was like, no, I spend too much time on this. It's actually bad. I go to bed and I spend an hour. I'm like, I'm gonna go to sleep now, and then I spend an hour watching videos of just trash. And I was like, and it was great trash, I'll be honest with you, but it was still trash. And I was like, I need to get rid of this, and I felt so much better. And then the next thing was Instagram. I was like, again, spend too much time on this. It just kind of, before, when I had TikTok, I was like, people that use Reels, no, you got to have TikTok. And then I deleted TikTok, and I was like, I love Reels. And then I was like, this is so embarrassing. So I deleted it, and I was like, I need to get rid of it. I'll be honest, I have now started to notice that I've even replaced that with YouTube Shorts. So I've was like, gosh, I need to get rid of this. So it's just so addictive. And
It's a slippery slope.
This is not good for me. And I just felt that I was spending so much time on it. Literally every time that I was doing anything, and there was like a 2-minute pause, even that, I would just instinctively go on my phone and be like, let me just get Instagram and quickly see what my friend's doing, or let me just check a story, or like whatever. And I was like, why do I even care about this? Like, this is not that I don't care about my friends' lives, obviously do, but like, it was just so quickly that I'd just be like, bam, 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 let me just go check things. Like, if I had 5 minutes between meetings, I wouldn't be like, let me have a breather, or like actually pull away from a screen. I just go from my laptop screen to the screen in my hand, and I was like, this is not good for me. So I was like, let me get rid of it. I don't like what this is forming, the influences in my life. I'm being comparative of other people. So many reasons which we can get into, but that's kind of the start of where I was like,
Darby, we are going to get into these reasons. Okay, I hear you, but strong pushback as I'm just triggered and ready to like engage in this conversation. Where does it end? You were like, you got rid of TikTok first, and then it was Reels, and then it was Instagram, and then now it's YouTube Shorts. It's like a slippery slope of
which I will admit I'm really embarrassed about that. Like, that's actually really embarrassing.
I think it's good.
I'm embarrassed that I'm watching YouTube Shorts. That's embarrassing.
No, doesn't it reveal something that the more you peel back the layers, you find there's another layer of like addiction and incentive to keep going back to the phone. It just reveals how insidious the whole thing is.
Almost like the solution would just be to be like Christian hermits, like just not engaging with anything, you know, being in the world but not of the world is the challenge that we've been given, the mandate we have from Romans. And so how do you integrate that sort of mindset into stripping things further and further and further away?
Well, Annette, tell us your approach, because you have to use social media for part of your business and work that you do elsewhere, and you are very much in social media but trying to be not of social media perhaps. So what are your principles, strategies, hacks and failings in learning how to do that?
You took my really cool point where I was going to say, what if you're a small business owner and you've got a cute Etsy business and you need to be on Instagram
That's you.
promoting things?
That's you.
Oh man. But now you've called me out, because I think I hardly engage in the way that maybe I feel the pressure that I need to when I look at other small business owners. But it is from this awareness that I don't want to just be adding to the noise. I want to be putting content that will edify people, that will be different, and also not wanting myself to fall into the trap of comparison that you were talking about, Darby. I think comparison is the thief of joy, and it's so easy. So I have a Christian yoga business, and yoga has got so many different associations, especially when you just put it into like Google or Instagram. People are doing amazing, flexible things. God's blessed them with amazing bodies. I definitely can't do those things. So it's tricky, it's hard. You then think, maybe I shouldn't do this business because I'm not good at it. I'm not good like this person that I follow or that I see, etc., etc. But I think what I find really helpful is following accounts and people that are doing the same thing that I'm trying to do, to have edifying content, something that stimulates me and wants me to have interesting conversations with my husband or my friends or things like that I find really amazing. I don't tend to follow my friends as much because I want to be present with them when I see them and hang out with them and chat with them. And so that's probably would be my personal top tip or hack that I enjoy, is to find content that draws my awareness and my attention back to God. So it's a lot of like practicing the way, or John Mark Comer, or just like insert any sort of Christian contemporary account that is going to be giving me good, interesting things to contemplate as I'm scrolling through.
Nice.
I really,
You could say you're turning that noise into music.
Ooh, go on, Tim.
I feels a bit weird.
Cringe. Christian
very
cringe,
anti-Tim.
but we love it. We love it. I'm here for it.
But there is something about it. I think noise is a really good, apt metaphor for
sure.
what social media is. It is just visual noise when you're scrolling through. And how do we curate that or be more intentional about that so that it is edifying?
But I think
this is
and how do we find
Darby, we
the
need to be
signal?
friends by the end of this episode.
No,
but Darby, this is the thing,
but
you can
I
be
think-
intentional
yeah, no,
about what you're watching.
But I think that's all really nice to say, and it's really great to be like, yeah, follow Christian content and follow good content that edifies you. But like, the reality is, for most people, it is a friend platform. So for my friends, like I remember in school, when I was in school, I was like, there's a few people that I followed in my like school, and I was like, actually, I'm not finding their content like overly helpful to me, just as a young person who's trying to avoid certain things and just like wanting to not engage in certain behaviors that my peers are engaging in. So like, I was like, I actually am going to unfollow a couple of my friends, and people were really offended by it. Like, as in, my friendships were in jeopardy by the fact that I'd unfollowed people on Instagram.
I've blocked some of my friends. I just didn't tell them that I've done it.
No, but I didn't tell them. I didn't tell
They
them.
found
but,
out.
Like, as in, some people have like Instagram unfollow it. Like, as in, I think less
the
now. We were like
notifications,
16.
right.
But even so, like, people will find, like, if people find out that you've unfollowed them, it's like, it actually can be quite a hurtful thing. Like, I think if one of my really good friends unfollowed me, I would be a bit like, why did you unfollow me? Like that, I would be a little bit like, that's a bit confusing. So I think it's all really lovely to be like, add all these content and like, you know, remove the distractions from it. And I'm like, just practically, like, for me and my peers, that's just not how we use social media. So I think I do agree with your point of what you're saying in terms of, I think for me, one of the reasons why I got rid of it was because I found that like, or I have at the moment, is because I found that my friendships, again, as you said, like the connections became about connecting online as well as in person. So if I didn't respond to their DMs, which, you know, like if I've got people sending me things, then like I would, if I saw them in person, I felt the sense of awkwardness of like, I haven't read their messages or I haven't responded to them. But then not having Instagram, and I would just like, there's no pressure of that. Like when I see them in person, I'm like, my relationship with you is based on my time in person with you, rather than the fact that you've sent me something on Instagram and I haven't seen it and I feel really bad about it. Like it just removed that pressure.
You also bring that attitude into work because you don't ever reply to any of my emails.
I know. It's true. It's true.
Yeah,
I'm like,
so
but it's true, because I'm like, again, I'm like, I'd rather people just call me, because it's not practical for everyone.
It makes me call you or come in and chat to you.
It's true.
It is actually better. It is actually better.
And then we get to have great conversations from it.
Happens.
So
I've got to say, you're winning me
call
round.
me out, but it's true.
I feel like we're just talking over each other.
Sorry.
I'm getting so excited. I'm sorry, guys. But no, Darby, I completely agree. Like the unread messages anxiety is so real.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate it. And you feel like if you're on holiday, you can't post photos because then you've not messaged someone on WhatsApp. And so they're like, how does she have time to like post something on Instagram, but definitely has not responded to the text message I sent her last week? There's sort of this like social anxiety a little bit around our social media, but also I feel like you're definitely calling me and Tim out on our age here, because you're like, within you and your peers, like it's all you've ever known. We were actually talking about this beforehand, and you were like, you have not known life without a phone or social media, which is really different from me and you, Tim, I would say. I think I am probably speaking from a privileged position of like, oh yeah, I can definitely just curate what I want my feed to look like, because I have lived a life as a teenager, as like a young adult in her 20s, without necessarily social media as prevalent as it is now. Do you think that makes a difference to like how we're approaching it?
I don't know. I think we're in 2024. Lots of us are in the same boat now.
Tim
but I'm
doesn't.
curious about. So Darby, just to pull out what you're saying. You're saying if you come off social media, that just gives you kind of a free pass with your friends to then not contact them on social media.
No, because I'm still, let's be honest, the people that know me know that I'm still bad at replying on texts and things like that. So it's not,
Safe
like,
space,
again,
safe
as you
space.
said, it's more for me, it's not a free pass, because I think the attitude, or not the attitude, because my attitude is I love my friends and I want to reply to them. Please don't take that otherwise. But my actions maybe of not being someone that's very good at that are still a truth, whether or not I don't have social media or I do have social media. Like, I'm still not very good at that, as you know, from Teams and things like that. But for me, it just means that I was just adding extra stress onto my life, and I was going, what am I actually, like, am I growing from this? What am I getting from this? Or am I becoming someone that by using social media, I'm comparing myself more? Like, I have like, I quite enjoy like people's like weird fashion and like styles and stuff like that. I really enjoy that sort of thing. So I love following like accounts that do that sort of thing. But then I did just find myself being like, I don't have that clothing, or I need that. Or like people who's like renovate their houses. Like, I'd love to renovate my house one day. And it's like, if I ever can buy a house, you know, like being like, but following those people and being like, those aren't things that I have, but things that I want. But actually, like, is that forming me in a good way, or is that just making me jealous of what other people have? Is that making me desire things that actually like aren't desiring Jesus first?
So it's like breeding discontent.
Yeah, that's it. I think I just kind of found that situation. And then with my friends and things like that, I just felt like even if they weren't putting pressure on me, I felt pressure, and it just wasn't leading to a very like restful life. And like, particularly as you mentioned, like practicing the way stuff, John Mark Comer stuff, like the idea of like, because you said you follow that on social media, and for me, like getting rid of social media has been a way of practicing that, because it's been, let me eliminate the things in my life that aren't like causing me peace, but actually, and really, I don't know, we should totally be in the world. I'm not saying that we should just disconnect from everything that's like not good, but for me, I was like, is this net good for my spiritual formation, or is this net negative? And I found that for me, I was like, this is just not, I don't know, this just isn't fruitful. Like, I'm not growing in the way that I want to grow. I'm not, I don't know if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. Like, as I'm listening to you, I'm like, well, my only pushback is, how then do you begin to strengthen the self-discipline muscle that it sounds like that's what you want to lean more in towards, and you want to protect your peace more. So chatting to our other colleague, and he has a problem with speeding and things, and he was saying that he, in Australia, actually at one point lost his license, and then his friend during this time said to him, oh, have you learnt your lesson yet? And he was like, obviously raging, which I totally understand. But he was like, actually, no, I haven't. I'm just learning to live life without a car. The point would be to have a car and to learn to drive within the speed limit. And so it's almost like it's like avoidance. It's not necessarily detoxing, it's just avoiding. And so,
but I guess what does like learning to use social media well, like in a way that spiritually forms you, because I think part of my question that I end up asking was like, can social media spiritually form you? Because everything's forming you, and like, well, everything, so it can, social media can form you, but can it spiritually form you well? Or are you looking for the light among the mess that potentially might give you, you know, like in your scroll, you've like got one contemplative thought that you're like, oh yay, I now feel better about the fact that I've scrolled.
I saw a Bible verse on the background of mountains, and now suddenly I'm edified.
You know what I mean? So I guess for me, I was like,
challenged.
Like, can it spiritually form me?
I think it can, or maybe a healthier way to think about that is that God can use it to form us.
That's true.
If we participate in it well. But if we zoom back out, that I think Jesus models that helpful cycle of disengagement and re-engagement, disengagement and re-engagement that perhaps helps us. And I'm not sure Jesus would have described himself as detoxing from the crowds, but in Luke 5, it talks about how he withdrew to lonely places and prayed often. And is that something of what you're getting at in those 5-minute breaks?
I think that's what it is.
Meetings?
It's just, for me, that's been the noise that I've been replacing the quiet with. Like, I mean, in our lives, I think noise is such a bad issue. Like now, like I was reflecting the other day and talking to someone in my church about how like sometimes I can't even, like I've just got into the habit of I can't even have a shower without putting music on, and it's like I just have to have noise or something. Like I go to bed listening to a podcast, and it's like I can't just have stillness and slowness and nothing. And like I think for me, social media was something that was just a really easily accessible way to fill that void. So getting rid of it doesn't necessarily fix the issue, but for me it's just one less easy thing that I can access immediately,
Ooh.
mindlessly, to fill that void.
Darby, I like that self-awareness. Getting rid of the social media doesn't fix the actual issue, which is the avoidance of the silence and the stillness.
And just
That's so
stillness.
But like any spiritual discipline,
Yeah.
effectively we do something or put ourselves in a position or a time that gives God the opportunity to do something with us.
Yes.
And what you're saying is by taking out that
Yes,
noise,
I mean, it's not
you're
just
putting
something that I
yourself in
can make a
position where
void.
God can do something
I'm
that
like,
you couldn't do before.
I'm intentionally trying to make that space which I would have used for something else, for something edifying, for something spiritually forming, for something good for me. And that's going to look different for everyone as well. So
And have you managed to do that?
yeah, I have.
What does that look
and that's
like?
been really great. Like, I mean, I'm definitely like on a journey at the moment of figuring out how to be still. I definitely struggle with that. I think a lot of us do. Of like, I think trying to work out how to be in the presence of God without an agenda, without prayers, without just being like, I'm just going to sit in the presence of God is something I'm really trying to do at the moment, and just trying to work out what that looks like for me. But I've been, honestly, it's actually been amazing for me personally since deleting social media. My presence, my restfulness, like the anxiety and comparison I was feeling against stuff is like, it's just depleted so much. And just feeling like more able to spend time with God. I don't know why. Like for me, it was just this like barrier almost. Like, I mean, I still was, but it just felt like I was like, oh, you know, I'll do it for 10 minutes, then, you know, I can have 5 minutes on social media before I do something else. It's like, that's my little reward almost for going. And I'm like, actually, that's not the way I want to view it. Like, I want to view my, like, why don't I just spend more time with God? And like, I've actually felt so much more peaceful since getting rid of it, which has been great. Cause like, yeah, so I found it really, really like genuinely helpful.
This is so good. And
I need to delete Instagram again.
no. Well, actually, I was going to ask you, you've just reinstalled it. You said you hate yourself. What's the crack? What's
I reinstalled it for hopefully good reasons, but it quickly, just becomes that thing that fills every spare second. It's a distraction.
Oh my gosh.
And it just stops me being present, stops me being still. I do think there's a way to healthily engage in social media. I don't think it's evil or the devil.
The tone from the conversation is that we all need to be deleting our Instagram.
No, but
I mean,
let's go back to that
keep
Jesus
it.
cycle of disengagement and re-engagement.
Yes.
Okay.
Another parallel might be the spiritual discipline of silence. The idea with cultivating a spiritual discipline of silence is that I learn how to not speak. I learn how to be comfortable without the noise, so that when I'm in my next conversation, I don't feel the need to fill that conversation with my own voice, and I'm more able to listen to others. So similarly, I think what you're saying, Darby, is you're cultivating that stillness, that presence, that awareness of God with you. And you might reinstall Instagram at some point. You might come back to the dark side.
For sure. I mean, I still have it on Safari. So like, that's actually been really lovely for me. It's just having it on my, like, you know, I can just go on my web browser, log in, and I can see my messages from my friends.
Well, that's a brilliant way of re-engaging because you've set some new parameters around how you are on Instagram, and not having the app, I think, is often
hugely
quite sensible.
helpful. I do recommend
but it's
actually.
still there if you need to go on it to respond to messages or for work stuff as well.
Fun tidbit to share with you guys. Did you know that in Australia they've actually banned Instagram and social media for kids under 14 and under?
This is coming in now.
It's like it's just, the law has just been passed.
And some schools in the UK as well.
Genuinely. I think for young people, if you're a young person, you're watching this, please be really careful with how you engage with social media.
And if you are the parent of young people, read Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation, which is all about this. It's seminal.
Parenting in a digital age.
Seminal. Yeah, and in fact, it's just good reading for all human beings.
I feel like I want to make a note of that book.
With
Can you
social
say
media.
it again one more time?
Jonathan Haidt, The Anxious Generation.
Nice.
It's absolutely superb. I would recommend it.
But for all of us, I think, like, I mean, for me, part of where this conversation came from is we've got a Connecting with Culture that's just come out. Shout out Connecting with Culture.
What's Connecting with Culture, Darby?
Connecting with Culture is our weekly blog that comes out on a Friday, which you can subscribe to as an email, or you can just read on our website, that we kind of talk about how can we look at something that's happened recently in our culture and talk about where's God in this, where's Jesus in this, how do we respond to this as Christians. So I've actually written one, I don't know when this is coming out, but it's recently, about my social media detox. And part of my reflection on the end of it is just the fact that whether or not you feel really stirred by this, that you need to get rid of it, or you're not on social media, the answer for you might not just be like deleting it. For all of us, it's going to look different, but actually it's about going, how can I become more like Jesus in this? How can I glorify God in this? And for me, it was a real reflection in 1 Corinthians 10:32, where it says, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. So if you really love social media, or that's your job and you're an influencer or any sorts of things, like you totally can do it for the glory of God. Just ask yourself those questions of going, for me, it's been helpful to ask myself those questions of going, how is this forming me? How is this glorifying God? What's my intention? And making sure that I balance that, like all of that together to form me properly and to make me more of a disciple of Jesus.
Yeah, it's really good.
Really good question.
Such a good verse.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, do it for the glory of God. And so for me, I think with social media, that looks like not allowing it to fill in the gaps and be a distraction, but also not necessarily cutting it out entirely. But when I go on it, enjoying it for what it is, but keeping a boundary around it. So sometimes my wife Beth and I, we talk about I'm just faffing about time. And sometimes you come in from work and all you want to do for 10 minutes is just sit on the sofa, stroke a fluffy animal, scroll on social media, and that is absolutely fine.
It's like the mark of a true friend. You can sit next to each other and just be on your phones for an hour.
Exactly.
Talk,
that's
and
okay.
So true.
But
So,
when that's done,
pottering time.
it's done.
Yeah.
And then we don't have our phones out at the table, so no social media, definitely when we're eating meals together. And
so
often when we're on a date night, no social
phones,
media, like leave all the apps and social media at home. So there's similar places where you can just draw some boundaries that help me engage deliberately when it's on and switch off from it when it's away.
Yeah. Nice.
I've loved this conversation. There've been like really interesting things that I'm like thinking about in my mind. I'm still team keep the social media, simply because, just to your point where you guys are saying, how is this forming me? I think there are so many good content creators out there. It doesn't have to be practicing the way, it doesn't have to be Christian influencers, but just, Bible verses on a mountain cloud. I'm all there. I love that stuff. And literally my feed is all of those things. And so, I don't know, maybe you're in that same space and you're like, I love my Instagram, I love social media. That's okay too. I'm there with you, friend.
We need Christians on social media.
We need Christians on social media. But
Salt and light.
I love these questions. Like, how is this forming me? Is my identity wrapped up in this? Like, what are my boundaries around it? I could chat about this for so much longer, but we've linked to some helpful articles in the description box. We've got Darby's Connecting with Culture that's come out that's like connected to this conversation. Let's keep the conversation going. Chat to us in the comments. Let us know what your relationship with Instagram is like. Do you love it? Do you hate it? We'd love to hear from you. But that's it from us. See you next time.
Bye.